Turn me up just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's that man space vibe.
Step in the zone, microphone check. Russ and Les got the real intellect. Talk smooth like jazz on a late night set. With a convo deep and the topics connect. From the struggles to the wins, they address it with grace. Drop lines so cool, you can feel the bass. Two kings of the craft, and you know the rest. Kick back, pour a drink, welcome to the space. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. Hang out, cause now you vibing with nothing but the best. Space forever.
Welcome into another edition of the Manspace Podcast. Now, this is the voice of Russ, and yes, it is more of the Russ and Company series, where I interview some amazing people all across the globe, and today is absolutely no different, Manspace Nation, because, when you are a parent, like my co-host Les and I both are, you take on the role of a full-time job. And yes, as a parent, it is a full-time job. It's one of those jobs that you don't get paid for. Sometimes it may be a little thankless, it may be a little frustrating, but one of the things that you do have to deal with is the fact that your number one task is to protect your children. And see, sometimes when we're driving down this road of parenthood, we face things that are completely out of our control. So, what do you do at the point when things happen to your children that you have absolutely no control over? Man, that's what my guest is going to talk about here today. He is a father of 8. Wow, 8 children. Man, and his life completely changed overnight when his youngest child was diagnosed with autism. Thrown into exhaustion, uncertainty, and the kind of stress that no parent is prepared for. He didn't just survive it, he turned it into something powerful. He is the author of Autism Sucks: Finding Hope in the Chaos, a raw and honest guide born not from theory, but from real life, sleepless nights, and hard earned breakthroughs. And today he's going to share some practical strategies that helped his family reclaim hope, improve sleep, grow stronger, and insights that just didn't impact not just one child, but its entire family. Manspace Nation, I need you to give it up for my guest today, Mr. Paul Voss.
Hey, Russ.
Paul, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the invite to be a part of the show. So, right off the bat, we're going to focus on autism on this episode. But for those that are not familiar with autism, can you kind of explain what it is?
Sure. And I'll give kind of the standard definition first and then maybe
Yeah.
give my spin on it. So
Okay.
it's a neurodevelopmental condition that kind of impacts how somebody communicates, interacts with others, perceives the world, how they process sensory information. They do call it a spectrum because if you've known one person with autism, you've literally known one person with autism because they're all so different. For me, it's also something that I know my daughter wasn't born with, and something caused or multitude of things caused or triggered it. And
Oh.
I think there's, different takes on whether it's reversible or not. But,
Mm.
my family has kind of been down the path that we feel she wasn't born this way, something triggered it. So part of our
Mm.
journey has been also figuring out, like, how do we reverse what happened to her as well?
Wow. Wow. Something triggering. There's been a lot of speculation when it comes to the chemicals and things that get put into food.
Yep.
How much, research have you done into that at this point?
Yeah, we've done a lot, and One of the first things we did after we confirmed she had autism was we did change her diet. We actually changed the diet for my whole family.
Mm,
Um, and we had some genetic testing done as well. We found out that
right.
she has a genetic mutation that's called
Oh,
MTHFR. And with that genetic condition, you have a hard time getting stuff out of your body the way that like you and I
mm,
may. So
right.
I know it's unpopular to say, but even like with vaccines, like she can't process what's in there the same way that you or I could. So
Okay.
that was something we learned just from testing,
Oh,
pretty soon
wow.
after getting the
Okay.
diagnosis.
Okay. Now, I know that autism falls in various forms. Where does she fall on the spectrum?
Yeah, so she's level 3. It's
Mhm,
funny because when we got the diagnosis, the specialist we were working with didn't tell us she was level 3. She was
mhm,
kind of vague about it, and I actually put in my book, I'm glad she didn't tell us at the time
right.
because I think it would have crushed us even more, but, after
Mhm,
researching, it's pretty quick to see, where she is on the spectrum. So she would be considered, like, profound autism. She's non-speaking, nonverbal, does a lot of stimming still.
mhm,
She's 6, she just turned 6, what, 2.5 weeks ago, and she's still
mhm,
not potty trained, so we still have
mhm.
kind of a long road ahead of us, but, we've
Right,
been
right.
seeing improvement.
Wow. Wow. Now, how old was it when you found out about her diagnosis?
Yeah, it started in January 2022,
Okay,
so she was just under 2 at the
okay.
time. We didn't get the diagnosis right away, so COVID hit our house in January
Mm,
2022. It impacted me and my wife pretty hard. 7 of my kids were sick for, like, a day, so they had, like,
right.
fever, and then they were fine. For her,
Mm,
she stopped sleeping, basically,
mm,
so she wouldn't fall asleep at night. We'd get her to fall asleep by, like, 10 or 11, and then she'd sleep maybe 2 hours and then be up
mm,
again. And so that kind of was like the initial sign that something could be wrong. We thought it was COVID. The sleep never really got better, and then we started to notice other things. So she still wasn't talking,
mm,
and the words she did have started to go away. We found her getting more agitated. There were some other weird things, like one time I was at a lacrosse game with my daughter, and she went up to
mhm.
another lady thinking it was her mom, and we've never had that happen with any of our other kids. Took her to a class party, end of year party, and, like, she looked at me like she didn't know who I was. She went
Mhm,
to another mom to be consoled. So we started speech therapy in the summer of 2022,
mhm,
and the first thing the specialist said was, "Have you considered having her tested for autism?" So
mhm.
that started the whole process of, "Okay, we need to get her
Oh, wow.
tested." I definitely had suspicions, but,
Mhm.
I was also very naive because she would make sounds with her mouth, and
Right,
I was like, "How could she be nonverbal, non-speaking if she's making sounds? She's not saying words yet." So I
right.
was so ignorant, like, about how hard it
Mhm.
is for people to speak and just
Right,
everything about it.
right. So, around the age of 2, so was she saying a few words here and there before that?
She was. So
Okay.
she said, like, apple really well, and she would use it
Right,
in the right context too, right? Like, if she
right.
wanted an apple, she would say apple, and,
Yeah,
like, that went away. Dada, she still says, which is awesome, but a lot of the other words she was saying just, yeah, went away, and especially, like, using it the right way, right? To say, like, if
yeah.
she wants something like apple and saying it.
Wow, wow. So, the impact because you're a father of 8, so you 7 other children, you and your wife. What was the impact of this on your whole family? Because I'm sure not knowing the age ranges of your children, they don't quite understand exactly what's going on, you would think. So, what was the impact on them? And then, as far as you and your wife?
Yeah, it was, I would say, initially, it was all negative, right? So
Mm,
me and my wife were not sleeping. Like when
mm,
just not sleeping, you're not in a great mood. So you're
yeah,
always tired. Leading up to the diagnosis, like we had no idea what was going on. So I think we were more stressed about like, well, what is this? Like we've never had this issue with our 7 other kids.
right.
And then after the diagnosis, what we got the formal diagnosis,
Mm,
financial impact, like having a child on the spectrum is so expensive. Insurance
Yeah.
doesn't really cover a lot, especially if you're going more of like a natural route to help
Right.
your child.
Right.
Really, there's nothing that insurance covers. There's a lot of frustration because there's so many voices in the community, but like no one
Right.
is really an expert on every child. And because it's a spectrum, it's so
Hmm.
different for every child. I think for my kids too, like they didn't understand it at all, right? So they couldn't understand why she would pull their hair or bite them when she got
Hmm.
upset. You couldn't understand why she was upset either because she couldn't communicate it. So I think for them
Right.
at first it was a lot of like confusion and just
Yeah.
trying to figure out like what am I doing that's making her upset? Sometimes it wasn't anything they did. It was just something else like in the area. Maybe it was something she wanted on TV that wasn't exactly what she was looking to watch. Like we really, to this point, we still don't always know. Um,
Mhm.
but I will say, like, as I wrote the book Autism Sucks: Finding Hope in the Chaos, and initially I started it literally just to write about what we did that helped,
Yeah.
because basically a book I wish I had when I first got the diagnosis. But what I started to realize was there were a lot of positive things that came out of the diagnosis as well for me and my whole family. A big
Yeah.
one was you had asked about the chemicals in food. So we
Mhm.
did change her diet pretty soon after we got the initial diagnosis. We ended up starting off gluten-free, dairy-free, and then we really tried to start weaning off on processed foods. And there's a whole backstory to this, but
Yeah.
prior to my daughter even being born, my oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD. And
Mhm.
we went the standard medical route. We put him on Adderall.
Okay.
Within probably a week and a half, I'll never forget, it was a Saturday. He had gotten in trouble for fighting with his brothers or something, and he started talking about suicide, which he had never, like, mentioned before, ever.
Yeah.
And we called his pediatrician. This was during COVID too, so we had to do a Zoom meeting with the pediatrician, and she said, "Take him off Adderall immediately and bring him in."
Yeah.
Right after the call, I just started researching Adderall and saw some scary stuff. Like if you look it up, like there's an increased risk of suicide. And first, I was disappointed that that was never mentioned to me at all prior to him
Yes.
bringing it up. And second, I was like, you know what? I don't know if that's the right path. So we tried to manage it on our own. Like we didn't do very well, but the diet changes had a significant impact on him. So he no longer gets any support at school and he's an honor student. He has no symptoms of ADHD anymore. So that to me was like a super positive thing that came out of this that I don't know if we would have done without my daughter having the autism diagnosis. It is hard, right? Because
Mhm.
you're definitely you're turning down convenience because it's just hard to find, gluten-free, dairy-free options,
Right.
foods that
Right.
aren't highly processed. But it did, that was just one example of where it had a significantly positive impact, not only on me, but our whole family.
Wow. 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 That's a lot to unpack. And so you brought up your book. So Autism Sucks: Finding Hope in the Chaos. Now, what made you start to journalist journey and put this into a book?
Yeah. The first thing that really kind of, I'd say, triggered me to want to write something.
Mhm.
My wife and I were doing a ton of research on just like autism, managing the symptoms. How do we help our daughter? And she had mentioned this concept called grounding or earthing. And it's
Mm.
basically that the ground has energy in it, and walking around barefoot can help you.
Mhm.
I told my wife, I'm like, that sounds crazy. I'm not buying it at all. And I ended up reading a book on it
Mhm.
just to see what I could learn about it. After reading the book, I was kind of sold on it. I'm like, this sounds
Yes.
legit. Let's try it. So we ordered a grounding mat off Amazon. It was like 50
Mhm.
bucks. And I'll never forget it because the first night we put the grounding mat on her bed, she slept 6 hours straight. And
Yeah.
I was like blown away. Now, it didn't fix the issue with her falling asleep on her own. It didn't fix
Mhm.
all the sleep issues, but consistently from that point forward, we would get a minimum of 6 hours sleep every night. And I'm like, I wish I would have known this right away because
Yeah.
we could have at least addressed sleeping and started working on other things versus all the
Right.
time we wasted, trying to
Yeah.
tire her out
Yeah.
during the day, not letting her take naps. I mean, we did so
Right.
many things that just didn't have any positive impact. And so that was really what inspired me. The other big thing, and this is where like it was, again, my fault as a parent for holding off on it. We were working with a specialist who recommended
Mhm,
CBD oil. I didn't want to
mhm.
do it,
Right.
so said no. And then we working with another specialist that brought it up again. And what one of her issues was she wouldn't walk on her own. So she could walk, but when we would go for walks around the neighborhood or even to the store, she would want to be carried. Obviously,
Right,
as she
right.
gets bigger, that's harder to
That's
do.
harder, yes.
Yeah. And so we gave her CBD oil, and the first day we gave it to her, she walked on her own. And like same
Mhm.
thing, like going forward, it never came up again. So like that was just another one of them. Like if I would have just listened earlier,
Right.
yeah, and it's hard because I think there's a lot of people that try to monetize autism. So if you go
Mhm.
on like Instagram, you'll see people selling like sprays that
Of
get rid of
course, of course.
autism. And so you as a parent, it's so hard to know what to trust. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
wanted to be very clear, like this is what we did and this is what showed an immediate impact. Like there's a lot of things
Mhm.
we've done that probably have helped, but I didn't even include it in the book because I didn't want to like waste time on things that may have helped and just point out like here are the things that we did where we saw an immediate impact.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the grounding map because I have not gotten into that portion yet. I've been researching it, and seen where a lot of people have had success into grounding and actually believe in it. I've been doing the frequency therapies,
Nice.
and I had a guest on late last year who really pushed that to me. And so the frequency, I think is 925, which is like the God therapy and the God frequency. And then there's another one for healing and stuff like that. And so I started listening to those every night. And there'll be times that I just, will play it throughout the whole room, or I'll just have I have a Bluetooth sleep mask that I'll play it. And I've had moments myself where I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll turn that on, and within 10-15 minutes, I'm usually back to sleep, and I wake up and there's a puddle of drool all over because I slept so hard. But there's a lot of, you know, it's so difficult because of the amount of misinformation that's out there. And it's really tough to know what to believe and what not to believe because every time you turn on social media, there's somebody saying mix lemon juice with this and that and a piece of ginger and throw in a little turmeric and some black pepper and drink that every morning and you'll cure you of everything. Yeah. So how do you filter out the misinformation that comes along?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And
Mm,
I do a lot of research on my own. So, I'm at a different point now than I was 4 years ago. But
mhm.
I think early on I was skeptical of a lot
Yeah.
just because it just sounded a lot of it, the stuff that I'm doing now, I thought I would never do. And kind of the methods I would have trusted, I'm like, I would never do that now. But I
Mhm.
feel like if they're making like big promises, that's where you have to steer clear of it because anyone who's dealt
Yeah.
with a child on the spectrum, like, it's super complicated and there's not like a one size fits all for everybody. So if they're promising that, that's kind of where I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to them or go along with what they're saying. And I think, but I do think it's good to try different things because, the
Mhm.
frequency healing works well for some,
Yep.
grounding works well for some. Although I honestly haven't heard of anybody trying it and saying that they don't like it. But I'm sure there's people that would say, oh, I'm not getting anything out of it. But I do think it's important to keep an open mind on things like research first as a parent, but then keep at least an open mind on what you think
Right.
may or may not help. And I mean, if they're sending you to a link to order it right away after making big promises, that's typically where I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. You know, and it's really hard to trust a lot of the products out there too, because I know I've been looking at some products because I've seen some of those commercials out there, some of those ads out there. And so I don't click on the links. I instantly go back and try to research it myself. But so many of those products, you can go on Amazon and search the name of one of those products and you'll find, you know, 10 different makers of that product. And I'm like, man, I've never even heard of this. And now there's like all these people that are into it. But the main thing is the ingredients, because a lot of times there's filler in those ingredients and you don't know how your body will react to some of those things. As far as, more of a holistic approach and switching your family into that, was there any type of pushback, especially from your kids, and trying to switch the diet into gluten, because gluten-free and things like that? Because, as kids, hey, I want some pizza, I'll give me let me get some candy, dad. So did you get that pushback from your family?
Oh, definitely. And I should clarify, like for pizza, we actually did keep that one night a week for a while. So we started slow, right? We went gluten-free,
Right.
dairy-free first, then started cutting out processed food. Um,
Mhm.
they definitely would complain about it. We still, will get noise sometimes about certain foods they really liked before we changed the diet. And
Yeah.
like they're able to like get it sometimes if my daughter's not around. So we'll try
Yeah.
to like let them still have stuff occasionally that we wouldn't have in the house.
Mhm.
But we did start slow because I think if we tried to do it like immediately, it would have been a
Yeah.
lot harder. But I think they've started to see the benefits from it as well. They probably would never admit it, but they've started to see a lot of the benefits too. And I've had the school ask me, like, I at one time that one of the teachers sent a note about giving Skittles to kids in class, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, my son he can't have that." And
Yeah.
she took it as like he can't have candy, and it's like I never said he can't have candy. We just need to know
Mm.
what's in the candy that he's going to
Right,
eat. So
right.
it's
Yeah.
hard, especially with school, because they tend to bring food in a lot or have
Mhm.
parties and stuff, but,
Yeah,
um
yeah. Yeah, you really don't think about all the dyes and things like that, especially when it comes to Skittles. Skittles are known to have the yellow 5 in them and things. Some years ago, and I've brought this up on the show several times, but my wife and I went to an iridologist, and he was just talking about more of the holistic lifestyle. But the iridologists, they have a little prism and a light that they shine into your eye, and they can give you basically a full physical by looking through your eye.
Wow.
And when he looked into mine and he said, "Hey, looks like you had an ulcer at one time, but it's healed." And I'm like, I've never met this man for a day in my life. And sure enough, you know, yeah, it was true. I did have one. And he made all these recommendations as far as changing your diet up. So we went through, and the first thing that he wanted us to get rid of was high fructose corn syrup. And we went in there and we got rid of everything that was. I filled up a whole trash bag just on my refrigerator of stuff that had high fructose corn syrup in it, and just getting rid of that. We went through and started looking at the dyes and yellow 5 and stuff like that. And so trying to make all those little changes. For a good while, we went completely dairy free. Well, I'm not going to say completely, because it is almost impossible to be completely dairy free, but because there's some form of dairy in almost everything, and they just put it under different names. But we were probably in that 90 to 95% range of dairy free. And for that 6 months that we did it for 6 consecutive months. Like, barely even got like a runny nose. And if I did, that was because I was outside too long in the winter. We didn't do flu shots that year, nothing, just was perfectly healthy that entire time. Eyesight improved, things got better. So, it's not impossible, but the American food system doesn't make it easy for you to do.
Definitely.
And now, going back to your book, what is it that you hope that readers pick up from your book?
There's 2 things really. One is, any parent that recently had a child that was maybe diagnosed with autism or on the spectrum, that they can take, some of the things that helped us and maybe incorporate it into their life.
Yeah.
Some of the things sound extreme, right? Like changing the diet. We also removed screens, and that was not something we did right away. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
to clarify, we did not remove screens for all my kids. We removed them for her
Mhm.
because we noticed that the TV would definitely like either trigger
Sugar.
frustration or it would just take it over the top. And getting rid of
Mm.
that like helped tremendously with the meltdowns. So
Yeah.
that was really the first thing is like, hey, could something we've done help other parents that are maybe,
Mhm.
in the worst of not sleeping or meltdowns? And
Yeah.
then the other thing was, for parents that are maybe in the worst of it right now is like let them know there's positives that come out of it as well. Because
Mhm.
it's just so hard for parents. I mean, it just changes everything with your life, right? Like where you're gonna go, who you're hanging out with, like
Yeah.
how long you can stay in a place, how you prepare to
Mhm.
go to a place. There's just so many things that you have to
Yeah.
adjust in your life. So I
Right.
thought it would be good to share, like, hey, we've been through this, and here are the positives that we've seen so far.
Mhm.
Again, not saying I would wish it on myself or anyone else, but there
Yeah.
are good things that come out of it if you really
Right.
look at it holistically and
Mhm.
say, okay, like this is where we were, this is where we are now. You have to, celebrate the wins and the good things that
Yeah.
come out of it.
Yeah. Now she's school age now, so has she actually been enrolled into a school, or she's still at home?
So she is home. She did
Okay.
do preschool at our public school.
Mhm.
We decided for kindergarten to homeschool her
Right.
just for a lot of different reasons. The main thing was just as like the school and me and my wife, we were not aligned on like goals for her.
Right.
So, their goal, like one example was when she plays with a toy, playing with it the right way. I don't care if any of my kids play with a toy the right way, right? Like my
Right.
goal for her is to play with a toy however she wants.
Mhm.
My goal for her is like we want her talking, we want her communicating,
Right.
we want her
Right.
potty
Right.
trained. Like so we just weren't aligned on really what the
Mhm.
goals were. So we're homeschooling her now.
Yeah. I know one of my good friends, his son suffers with Asperger's, and they had to search high and low to find some of the best schools in the country that actually support students that have Asperger's. So he ended up, picking up the family and moving. Do you feel like that may be a possibility, to look and see if the different schools that help support for autism?
It definitely could be. Yeah, I think we'd be open to, anything that would help her.
Yeah,
One other thing I'll just mention too, like they would send notes home every day, and that part
right,
drove me crazy because like we're with her, all the time when she's not in school. So like we know what her issues are.
right,
And so they would send these notes home of how her day went, and it was all negative, right? Like nothing positive. And it's like, we already know
mhm,
this. Like, why are you telling us again? Like, oh, yeah,
right,
she didn't want to walk down the hallway or she had a meltdown. Like, we know that. Like, how about telling us some of the positive stuff that you saw during the day versus always focusing
right,
on the negative? So that probably bothered me more than even how they cared about how
yeah.
she played with toys.
Yeah, I think a lot of times that there is a disconnect, especially when it's something that you really haven't dealt with. So, having that they're sympathetic to a point, but they don't know how to deal with that. To
Yes.
I remember my daughter was at a daycare, and there was a girl that was autistic there, and I remember telling my daughter, like, just kind of be nice to her, not really explaining everything to her. I said, just be nice. And my daughter would say, but dad, she's real mean. And I was, but that's all right. That's all right. She's special, but just be nice to her no matter what. Don't get mad, just be nice. And so, the girl actually developed a friendship with my daughter from that experience, because she would always everybody else would shun her and walk away from her, whereas my daughter wouldn't, and she would just continue to be nice to her regardless. So sometimes, not having the ability to deal with that, even from a teacher or an adult standpoint, you don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to interact with somebody. And a lot of times from a teacher standpoint, yeah, they want everybody to just kind of get in line, do what they're supposed to do, and then, go on about their day. So it's like, yeah, let me just send these notes, hey, you work with them at home and make sure they get right,
Yeah.
type of deal. I don't have time to watch this one. It makes it a lot more difficult. Definitely makes it more difficult. But let's go back a little bit, and I'm sure you probably talk about a lot of this stuff in your book as well. But from the initial diagnosis, what do you remember about your mental state that moment and how it impacted you and your wife at that time?
Yeah, there's one thing I remember just right before we got the diagnosis. So I was hoping for an autism diagnosis, which sounds crazy, but I mean,
Right.
my reasoning was we could know what it is and start addressing it.
Right.
My wife was hoping it wasn't autism, and I totally get her point now. But at the time, I'm like, well, no, we need a diagnosis so we can start fixing
Right.
it. But I remember being out in the backyard with her. She was jumping on the trampoline, and I just remember
Mhm.
thinking, like, I may never hear her say "I love you," and I remember like breaking
Wow.
down in that moment. So like
Mhm.
emotionally, it was really really hard. I think for both me and my wife. And it's kind of funny, like the whole "I love you" thing. I actually had to go back. I thought my book was finished and I had to update it. So
Mhm.
last year, I finished my book and we're in the kitchen just sitting there and I hear her say, "I love you" twice. And I was so glad my wife was in the room because she's like, "Did you hear that?" Um,
Yeah.
but what my daughter taught me as part of that too was even like I wanted to hear "I love you" so bad from her. But when I
Yeah.
heard it, like, it wasn't as meaningful, and the reason it's not is because like, she shows me she loves me way better than, like, any
Yeah.
words could ever mean, so, like,
Yeah.
she's taught me so much, but yeah, we were, like, just emotionally a mess
Yeah.
and, trying to figure out, like, how do we help our child?
Mhm. Yeah. I have a friend of mine who is documenting his journey as a caretaker for his mother-in-law who actually is suffering from dementia. And so he's documenting everything and basically started putting a journal on social media. Is that something that you guys are doing or have talked about doing, is just kind of documenting this on social media as well?
Not really, like, I use
Mhm.
Instagram for
Yeah.
some of it, but I've been I would love for my wife to post more because she's working with her during the day. We're
Yeah.
just not very disciplined about it, but it's definitely something we'd like to do more of. I love
Yeah.
the idea because I think that can really help people more than,
Mhm.
all the other resources out there. Just seeing
Yeah.
real time, what you're going
Yeah.
through and what you're doing, I think is super
Yeah.
helpful to people.
Yeah, because a lot of times you find a community of people that are going through some of the same things, and just reading, some of the comments that come from my friend with his mother-in-law, and just I'll sit there and look at the comments from people, and it's just amazing, yeah, there are gonna be some people that are negative, right? And that's just society. But you get through the bulk of the comments, and they're just so positive and so uplifting. And you get to people that are, "Man, I'm facing this situation. I'm so glad you're sharing this because now, I thought I was the only one." And you find out that there are more and more people that are actually in this same boat. But as far as the book, where can people find the book?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Mhm.
Actually, right now the Kindle version is free. I
Okay.
made it free for Autism Awareness Month, but there's a Kindle version, and then there's also a paperback version as well.
Okay. Okay. And where can people find out more about you and everything as well, as far as your social media and website or anything like that?
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Instagram.
Mhm.
That's the social media platform I use the most, and
Mhm.
it's Paul and then V and then the number 055 because somebody else took Paul Voss, so it's just all VO 55.
Awesome. Awesome. So, do you have any other projects coming up? Is there going to be a part two to this book in the future?
There's definitely gonna be a part 2.
Mhm.
I It took me a long time to finish this version, the
Yeah.
first book, so I've started kind of writing down ideas on a second book, so there definitely will be a part 2,
Awesome.
and then but just been doing a lot of different podcasts and,
Mhm.
talking to people, just trying to share what's helped us. I mean, my goal
Yeah.
with putting the book out was, like, if I could help one person, I'm
Yeah.
good, I don't need to do anything else, but
Yeah. Yeah. So as we wrap up, there's one last thing I always like to do with my guest, and it's called the last word.
And now, the last word.
So give me a, just one major thing that you wish you knew. Well, let me rephrase. What's something that you know now that you wish you knew back when all this started?
I would say that keep an open mind to different treatments, and I would actually play that back even further than before my daughter was diagnosed, because my mom had schizophrenia and was pretty much
Mm,
institutionalized my whole life. Part of my journey has been, like, just researching about, how the brain works and everything, and I've
yeah,
learned so many other things that I think could have actually even helped her years ago that I never even got to do. But I think it would be keeping an open mind and just doing my own research, trusting the professionals out there, but talking to a lot of different people to get their input. And then,
right.
understanding as a person, what do I think makes the most sense to try or to help?
Awesome. Awesome. Paul, and thank you so much for spending time with us here. I wish you and your family much success on this journey. And I'm kind of at a loss for words because, for me, this is not something that has touched my life directly. Indirectly, yes, I know people that are going through it, but I've never had this touch me directly, so I can't even imagine to know what you have dealt with, and for you to come on and share, that definitely means a lot to me and our audience. So definitely thank you so much for spending time with us here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Love your podcast.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Manspace Nation, the Autism Society National Helpline is a fantastic way to learn about resources and services in your area. You can speak with a trained information and referral specialist about resources and support in your area. While the helpline isn't able to provide direct services, the specialist will connect you with resources and providers that can. So reach out to 800-3 Autism, or that's 800-328-8476. Manspress Nation, until next time, we are out of here.
No gimmicks, just game that my sure in sight. They shine like the city on a Friday night. Man talk, real talk, that's the way that you bless. Giving knowledge and some laughs in the same finesse. From life goes to the jokes that hit. They the tag team champs, yeah, legit with the wit. So pull up a chair, let the stress digest. From the beat drops, you know the rest. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. Hang out, cause